honor, pain, and betrayal. The myth and misery behind the shining armor.
Imagine a time when the world was carved from stone and sweat, when the horizon was dotted with towers and battlements reaching toward the sky, yet the stories of those who built them were buried beneath the very walls they raised. Castles, those majestic fortresses that we now revere as monuments of power and glory, were not simply the creations of kings, lords, or knights. No, their true architects were the countless unseen hands, the silent laborers whose names history has all but forgotten. Picture the highest tower, the thickest walls, the impenetrable gates, but now look closer, beyond the stone, beyond the grandeur, and see the reality hidden in every chiseled block, every worn rope, every splintered plank. This is the tale of the invisible army, the nameless masters of the Middle Ages, whose sweat and labor transformed raw earth and rock into monuments of civilization. At the very heart of the castle, beneath the shadows of banners and the echoes of horns, there existed a bustling temporary settlement, alive with movement, sweat, and purpose. Thousands of peasants, craftsmen, and laborers converged, drawn by duty, obligation, or the faint promise of wages. Many were serfs, bound by feudal law, taken from the fields to toil endlessly under the burden of corvée labor. Their hands dug trenches, carried stones, and labored without recognition. For them, the castle was not a creation but a heavy duty, a daily struggle etched into the sinews of their lives. Others came of their own volition, free men and women, traveling across lands, seeking work, food, and shelter, yet even they were little more than shadows, their individual stories swallowed by the enormity of the project. Women, too, bore the weight of the labor, fetching water, preparing meals, tending fires, aiding the army of workers who moved mountains in the form of stone. Every life, every gesture of effort, invisible yet essential, whispered in silence through the growing walls. The overseers and foremen acted as the conductors of this immense orchestra of labor, orchestrating the rhythm of work, enforcing discipline, and transforming chaos into the carefully coordinated movements necessary to erect a fortress. The social gulf between the lord, seated in his ornate tent, and the peasant, knee-deep in mud and sweat, was insurmountable. One created symbols of power, the others simply survived another day of unrelenting toil. Yet together, they achieved what no single hand could, the raising of stone giants that would endure centuries. And above them all, yet apart, stood the Magister Operis, the master of works, not a lord, nor merely an artisan, but a man whose genius encompassed architect, engineer, mathematician, and manager. In his mind, he carried the plan for the castle in its entirety, every tower, every wall, every hidden passage and defensive feature without the benefit of drawings, diagrams, or blueprints. His was a vision realized entirely in memory and experience, communicated verbally, by demonstration, and through simple templates carved from wood. He understood stone as a musician understands an instrument: limestone, granite, sandstone, each with its temperament, each requiring intimate knowledge of its character to shape it for the fortress. This master builder did not sit in comfort. He bent over wooden templates, measured with knotted ropes, and tested every detail with hands hardened by decades of labor. Every decision: where to lay the foundation, how thick the walls must be to endure a siege, the precise placement of loopholes for arrows was his alone, and the cost of error could be catastrophic. The collapse of a wall, the death of defenders, the ruin of his reputation. Yet he was revered for his skill, often commanding compensation 10 or 20 times greater than that of ordinary laborers, and sometimes earning recognition in chronicles or inscribed stones, a rare honor for one of humble origins. While he envisioned the castle in his mind, his work extended through the hands of the craftsmen, stonemasons carving each block, carpenters raising scaffolds and frameworks, blacksmiths forging tools, nails, and hinges. Together, they formed a symbiotic network of expertise, each relying on the others to bring the castle to life. And yet, for all their genius, most of these artisans left no records, no memoirs, no trace beyond the walls they helped shape. Their marks, however, remain masons' marks, carved into stones like signatures, simple geometric symbols, or intricate monograms, each a quiet declaration: I was here, I built this. They are the only whispers of individual souls amid the collective triumph. Before any wall could rise, stone had to be quarried, a brutal, exhausting process of splitting rock with sledgehammers, wedges, and crowbars. The quarry was the birthplace of the castle, where mountains surrendered their hearts to human will. Every block required hours of labor to separate, shape, and mark, each then transported over treacherous roads, rivers, or ice in winter. Oxen, sleds, carts, winches, and sheer human strength became instruments in the orchestration of logistics. A single stone's journey could take days or weeks, each mile a testament to perseverance and ingenuity. Scaffolding rose alongside the walls, a temporary forest of timber that bore men, materials, and the weight of ambition. Carpenters worked at dizzying heights, erecting platforms that allowed masons to reach the heavens. Their lives balanced on beams without safety, their every step a dance with mortality. Each log, each plank, each joint had to withstand enormous strain, and once the stone was set, Much of this timber would be salvaged for roofs, floors, or partitions. That castle was not built of stone alone, but of human ingenuity shaped into wood and iron mortar. The invisible glue bound the blocks into unyielding walls. Lime, sand, and water, carefully prepared, sometimes enhanced with secret additives, became a substance whose quality determined the fortress's endurance. Furnaces burned around the clock, watched over by skilled craftsmen who monitored color, temperature, and reaction. Slaked lime hissed and bubbled, turning chaos into material, dust into defense, ensuring that each wall would endure the trials of centuries. To raise the stones, medieval engineers devised ingenious lifting mechanisms. Cranes, treadwheels, capstans, and winches, all powered by human muscle. Inside enormous treadwheels, men ran like hamsters, turning their weight into the force that lifted tons of rock skyward. Precision, coordination, and strength were vital. One misstep could send a block crashing, destroying months of labor. Through these devices, the castle grew, stone by stone, day by day, reaching for the sky, embodying human resolve in its very structure. Even as the walls ascended, carpenters framed roofs and vaults, installing floors, partitions, and the skeletal structure of interiors. Blacksmiths hammered and forged endlessly, maintaining tools, creating hinges, locks, and implements critical to every stage. Each trade, each skill, each laborer was a note in the symphony of construction, together producing the grand architecture that would endure beyond centuries, wars, and time. Construction did not follow modern schedules. Entire lifetimes could pass before a castle's completion. Generations of workers were born and died under the shadow of rising walls, the pace dictated by funds, politics, and seasons. Winter froze, mortar halted work, and yet preparations continued. Stones quarried, timber shaped, tools sharpened, fires kept to soften frozen ground. The castle was a living organism, shaped slowly, imbued with the rhythm of human life in the march of decades. Styles evolved as the work progressed. Romanesque foundations could give way to Gothic pinnacles, blending eras into a single edifice, a testament to the continuity of labor and the passage of time. Yet what of the quarrying, the transport, the intricate coordination? Stones traversed rivers, roads, and ice with ingenuity and care. Logs and sleds reduced friction, oxen hauled weights beyond imagination. Temporary bridges and reinforced pathways allowed the flow of material. Waterways offered safer passages. Cranes lifted loads onto barges, and winter ice provided roads otherwise impossible. Every mile, every block, every human effort contributed to the ultimate creation, a fortress born of toil, intelligence, and perseverance. Every timber cut, every scaffold raised, every mortar mixed and applied, every block lifted was the result of a living, breathing network of humans, each relying on the other, each performing their part in a colossal choreography that transformed raw material into impregnable bastions. And yet, for all the grandeur, the true story remained hidden, obscured by the lords' names and banners, erased from memory except in whispers and marks carved on stones. When one walks through these ancient halls today, the echoes of those nameless craftsmen resonate. Their genius, endurance, and sacrifices are embedded in every arch, every wall, every tower. The castles are more than symbols of power. They are monuments to human labor, imagination, and resilience. They are records of lives devoted entirely to creation, of ordinary people whose extraordinary work built the Middle Ages itself. Now imagine each mark on the stone, each hidden signature, a message from centuries past. The mason's cross, the arrow, the intricate lines, not mere decoration, but the language of craft, quality, and personal pride. Each apprentice carrying a legacy, each master safeguarding secrets orally, preserving knowledge that books could not contain. They were the carriers of civilization, their movements and skills spreading innovation across fragmented Europe, linking lands and cultures without the aid of written word. Their labor, the true engine of progress. Thus, the medieval castle was never the product of a single mind, nor the whim of a lord alone. It was the result of an invisible army, peasants, craftsmen, laborers, and visionaries, united not by fame but by necessity, devotion, and the relentless push to shape the earth itself. And in every stone, every wall, every tower, their story endures, quiet, unseen, yet eternal. So the next time you marvel at a castle's towers reaching for the clouds, remember the unseen hands that built it. Remember the sweat, the ingenuity, the countless lives intertwined in creation. History may have forgotten their names, but the walls themselves remember. And in that silent remembrance, the true architects of the Middle Ages live forever.